Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another tier list video. It's been a little bit since we've done one of these. But I figured, considering how v81 changed up March and a little bit of the balancing for some other moons, I feel like we should go back and revisit the whole moons tier list here. I guess the last thing to mention is, of course, these are all my personal opinions, so take this as you will. It's not exactly the permanently real and true, always factual list. But yeah, I suppose with all of that out of the way, we can finally get into the tier list now, which, of course, we begin with Adamance. Out of all of the changes for like v81 for all the moons, I think Adamance has got to be one of the most brutal ones imaginable. That makes me pretty much want to put it in D tier. It's like bad. So here's the deal with Adamance. In this update, we had changes to the map geometry, so a lot of the tech got removed. There is still some you can do, of course, but a lot of the ones that were like easy to do before are a lot more difficult or just non-existent now, which is fairly unfortunate, but that alone wouldn't be enough to make this D tier. What lowers this even more is the changes to the mineshaft chance, so now you're much less likely to actually get one, so that would, increase your scrap by 6. Now that doesn't happen as often, so less scrap on average. And then you also get the other truth nuke that the scrap pool, or Adamance rather, it spawns one less scrap item now. Like, it has like a minimum and maximum of one less scrap, so in totality, you're basically getting less loot out of Adamance now than you would be before. But, both of those are like kind of, not so great, but I suppose we can deal with them, right? And then the real nuke that makes it from Adamance to Cadavermance, where Zeekers forgot to remove, or I don't even know, man. I feel like he knew, but he forgot to remove the 100% like forced spawn of cadavers on Adamance, so you always have to deal with them there. Which, an enemy being guaranteed to spawn on a moon shouldn't be like this moon always sucks and is terrible now. But cadavers are balanced pretty horrendously currently, so actually playing around them is just not fun. Because in single player, you can kind of play around them, but you still get the infection multiplayers like in single player, you can still kind of play around them, but you still get the infection multipliers that you would get in multiplayer. So while it's like the default time of 4 minutes 45 seconds, it can easily get eaten down until like just 2 minutes almost. And then in multiplayer, it's like you have the 2 minutes almost, and that's like if you have 0 like in multipliers to it, which of course you're gonna have other multipliers that make it go even faster. So it's just like you're constantly getting infected very easily because you have 7 seconds of immunity in single. Okay, yeah, this is gonna be a lot of yapping about cadavers because that's kind of the main reason Adamance sucks. But yeah, like you have 7 seconds of immunity in single player, and you have 3 seconds in multiplayer. And then after that, you have the chance to actually get infected, which after that is horrible. At least in multiplayer, you can get it cured down with the weed killer, but you still take some damage, which isn't fun. And if you're too far advanced through the infection, you just get annihilated. You just burst right into the like cadaver bloom. It's basically just cadavers are incredibly oppressive, and they make it really hard to like actually get deeper into the facility just with how they're currently balanced. I believe there were also some changes to the like spike trap counts or something, or like at least the trap counts to some capacity, so I'm pretty sure, I don't remember if it's a little easier or harder, but it doesn't really matter, does it? I'm pretty sure he increased the spike trap count, so that probably makes it a little bit more annoying, but in reality, the main things that make it bad is what I just mentioned. What is nice about Adamance though, the only nice thing he did is that he made the spawn curves outside a lot more forgiving. I don't believe he did for the inside, though he may have. So basically, when you're outside, not on an eclipse, you can actually like run around outside, even like super late at night, because you aren't going to get crazy like spawns anymore. So unless it's super late at night, you shouldn't be getting like swarms of like baboon hawks constantly. Honestly, there's not really much more to mention with Adamance. I just feel like if cadavers were balanced in a way that made it more playable, it wouldn't really be that bad. It would probably be like low C tier, but the hydrogen bomb Zeekers dropped on this map basically took it from like an S or an A tier and dropped it all the way down just because it's like, why would you willingly play this now? It's like I almost want to put it in F tier just because of how much I despise cadavers. Because, yeah, sure, if you get into the facility instantly, as soon as possible, you can, in fact, eradicate the cadavers and kill them. But this is also assuming you are lucky enough for them to spawn near you. Unfortunate truth nuke incoming, they don't tend to spawn near you, at least as often as one would like, so you're kinda getting fucked most scenarios. And then you have the infinite, like, area denial from then on, like, when you do have it. And it's even worse because then you can't see through it as easily, so spiders or brackens will annihilate. It's just a whole nightmare. Like, we need a buff to either the weed killer, or there needs to be changes to cadavers. Maybe they can only spread throughout, like, you can, like, have them in a room, and then it, like, skips another tile or two, and then it can spread to there, but not one long segment. Because having it one long area just makes it unplayable. At least if you had little patches of cadavers, you could like go from place to place, just quickly trying to like not get fucked. Okay, well, I suppose that's enough yap about Adamance. It's just not really good anymore. It used to be the high quota metamoon, not so much now. And with that out of the way, we go on to Artifice, which is still S tier. It hasn't really changed, even with everything. I believe there were some minor changes to Artifice, but honestly, like, mostly just, it kinda didn't get changed too much, at least from what I can recall, because, I mean, I'm usually not on this map too often, but I can just tell you, it's incredibly lucrative, and that's really all there is to it. The enemy spawns inside and out, well, at least inside aren't, like, horrible to deal with. They're, like, fairly forgiving for a high tier moon, and then the outdoor spawns is, like, they are pretty rough, but usually you have mobility items at this point, like at least a cruiser or like a jetpack or something, so it's like tolerable. And like, if you don't have either of those, if you have stun grenades and like a bunch of them in a belt bag, then you should be chilling because you can just infinitely stun everything outside, but alas. I honestly really don't have much else to say about Artifice. It's just kinda... It's just, as per usual, been the meta moon, the high quota moon, but of course it's still never as good as it's gonna be as it like was on V50 or V55, you know, with the insane like item count and everything. There might have been like a shadow like patch or whatever, or like change to like Artifice. I honestly wouldn't doubt it that I don't know of, but I mean, it's basically just high value, some risk, but honestly in comparison to other moons it feels like it's not that much risk. Like, I feel like the enemy spawns are, like, somewhat forgiving here in comparison to something like even like, well, literally Titan. I guess the whole point is that this is supposed to be more lucrative, but just a little less dangerous, just considering the price. I don't know. There really isn't much more to yap about Artifice. I suppose I do like the warehouses outside, though, and, like, at least there's something with that. I do wish more maps had, like, things to actually do with the enemies, with things outside, because, I mean, you have the bridges, sure, but that's kinda it. So yeah, I guess if we had more things like Artifice, that would definitely be cool, but onwards and upwards, I suppose, we now have Assurance, which is incredibly good, even after everything, and honestly, considering how the man-eater chances got lowered, it's not really that bad. Like, Assurance just always tends to be the one moon that just Zeekers forgets to nerf, I guess, because this moon is just ridiculous. It really shouldn't be, like, the moon to go to, like, the free moon to go to. Because this is supposed to be a tier 1 that's, like, supposed to be, like, a middling tier 1, right? You would think it would be worse loot, but it's just not. And not only that, but you have like the chances for bees and the sapsucker outside, so you can get even more value than you would otherwise. Like especially in comparison to like experimentation. So And then, if that weren't enough, you also have the highest chance for stop signs or yield signs out of any map here on Assurance, so you can actually defend yourself a lot more likely here than, well, anywhere else, you know? I mean, overall, it's a solid map. The turrets from, like, the V50 change or whatever from super long ago was kind of painful, but besides that, that's really... I mean, there might have been, like, a change or two yet again, like, recently, but... If there was, it basically did fuck all, besides the man-eater one that I know of. Assurance just needs to be nerfed, I'm not gonna lie. Like, this moon should not be this lucrative at all. It's way too good. Because this one moon basically completely inflates and, like, changes the numbers for, like, all of the other free moons just because of how good it can be. It's kind of like Adamance, how it would, like, be so incredibly good, but... The thing with Adamance is it's supposed to be the hardest, like, free moon, right? Like, at least that would be my thought process. Because my thought process is, like, you have the easiest, like, of the tier 1s, and then the hardest of the tier 1s, and then the easiest of the tier 2s, and hardest tier 2s. Which is how it goes on the list, so Experimentation, Assurance, Vow. So, you would think it would be middling, I don't know. I do appreciate how this map has a lot of, like, geometry and things to play around as well, so if you do get a flood, it's not completely lost all hope, but it still definitely does suck to some capacity. This moon is just really solid, provides a lot of loot, isn't really that difficult if you don't have intense skill issues, so... Yeah, I think overall it's just a solid A tier, but it's not, like, crazy enough to warrant S tier with the loot inside, because you're not getting gold bars like Artifice. Well, I suppose with that out of the way, we have... Dine, which, it is incredibly good to a capacity. The thing with a Dine is, while it is really good, it's also fucking miserable to play. And it honestly makes, like, even though it should be it should literally just be S tier, considering how the bottom lines are insane, you can get so much value, but I do not like playing it still. It's still not fun to play. You cannot seriously sit there and tell me that, well, actually, transferring 200 items out of the facility is actually really fun. Like, who is sitting there thinking this, man? I mean, I guess there's different strategies you can employ, but, like, you are forced to use mobility items. Like, every other moon you can still get good value out of, and you don't really need mobility items, although they would be helpful. For this moon, it's basically, well, go fuck yourself, buddy. Get a mobility item. Like Embrion, you could make the case that you should have mobility items for, but you're probably not going to be playing it on Eclipsed, I would imagine. So you can usually get back to the ship at least 2 times. And, like, you know, if you have multiple people, that's like a decent amount of loot. But here with Dine, if you don't have, like, a bunch of people, like... and that's without mobility items, you're not going to be getting too crazy of loot unless you get lucky. So, it's just hell. I know at this point, for the tier 3s, it should be heavily encouraging you to use equipment, especially considering how, like, the masked spawns basically make you have, like, a shovel at all times. But I feel like there's a difference between forcing, like, self-defense equipment, like a shovel or a stun grenade, as opposed to a mobility item. Not even Artifice forces a mobility item. At least, in my opinion, it basically forces it, because you're not going to be getting good value out otherwise, at least 9 times out of 10. Like, I mean, maybe there is actually the, like, 1 in 14 million, like, possibility that I just don't actually see. To be fair, I mean, I play this map only, like, so much. I don't play it a crazy amount, but that's just because it's, like, when I play on my free time, it's like, I'll play, like, Vow or something. Maybe I'll do, like, Offense, you know, because those are, like, fun. You know what isn't fun? Playing Dine and then transferring 50 quadrillion times. I don't know. I understand that this moon is incredibly good due to the, like, sheer value or, like, volume of loot you can get out, making it incredibly valuable. But I just personally don't find it to be fun. We'll still keep it here up in S tier considering how good it can be. But yeah, if this was in terms of enjoyability, this shit would be straight F tier or D tier. I do enjoy the map geometry outside. It is fun to play against enemies outside, but on the inside, I mean, on the inside too, it's very chaotic and it can be fun. I mean, there's like 60 billion like traps as well. So it's like incredibly chaotic inside and like somewhat outside. So it basically makes it even more you need mobility items because you're probably going to get like slowed down by something to some capacity. And then at least with like the change made in v81, the main entrance has like that gray box protruding out a little bit more so you don't get insta-killed by enemies like to such a degree, but it's still just kind of pain. All in all, I just wish Dine had like fewer of like the body parts, but higher value of them. Like if you put it to 50, let's say, that is getting way more reasonable, and it's like, yeah, sure, it wouldn't be like the craziest value for them at that point. Like they might be like a little bit higher, but nothing too insane. And that would, you know, bring it back in line to like a lot of the other moons. I guess it does give Dine its own personality in terms of all the moons, considering how this is the only one that plays like this, but man, do I not like how it plays. I do not like how it plays. If there was like a Dine hater club, I would literally be the president of that fan club, bro. It is, or the hater club rather. It's like, it's so criminal. And I mean, yeah, there's also the cruiser boost you can do for Dine, but like, I don't want a map to need a cruiser boost to be good. You don't need cruiser boosts for any map really. Well, I mean, I guess maybe if you're trying to force it on Titan, I guess, but you don't need cruiser boost to use it on literally every single map. You can use the cruiser on every map without cruiser boost, and I'm being completely deadass about that. But yeah, we'll just keep it up here in S tier. I think that's all there really is to mention with that, so on to Embrion now, which kind of like what I was saying earlier, it's fun. It's actually fun to play because you have like 5 quadrillion old birds, and then you have like their traps. Like you're expecting it to be bad. And it's like the loot pool is experimentation plus. You're not getting much out of it. But considering how with old birds they can't see you in a cruiser, it does at least enable some strategy and some play style, because you can still technically play it to a degree, but it's still not like a preferred moon, but it can definitely be fun to fuck around with, I feel like. Which makes it a lot better than, honestly, Adamance here. Yeah, we're definitely putting it in front of Adamance here in D tier. I wouldn't say it's C tier, because it's not like you have to pay 150 credits to go to a moon that has equivalent scrap to Experimentation, man. Like, you might get like a little lucky and get some like better value items, but it's just kind of like, why rely on that, you know? Yeah, I don't know, there's just not really much to mention with Embrion. I just enjoy the like chaotic nature of it, to be honest, but yeah, in terms of actual value, it sucks, and you should probably never go there, but I always go there because it's fun. And on to Experimentation after talking about fun maps. It's another D tier. I wouldn't say it's an F tier, but I mean, I guess you could probably put it in C tier considering how like it's so mid, it's still decent, but at the same time it's just not good value. And the interesting, the kind of funny thing about Experimentation is it's almost harder than Assurance, at least with the exterior, considering how you have like the absolute pain and agony of the flat open area. So if you get a giant, for instance, it sucks, especially. And old birds are also kind of pain to deal with on there. Like, you can still play around them, this is true. However, it's definitely a little rough. But yeah, Experimentation just kind of has the most consistent, it's mid as fuck, like, loot, but it's still, like, peaceful enough on the inside and outside, usually, that you're not, like, really stressing, so you can kind of just play it chill, you know? You can be fairly relaxed while you do it. Honestly, I think I'll put it up in C tier, because it's, like, actually playable in comparison to Embrion and Adamance. And, like, you can literally do a 10-quarter run with Experimentation, because it can provide you with decent enough days, consistently enough that you're, like, fine. But does that mean it's fun? No. Maybe if you enjoy the calm nature of Experimentation. I don't. I also am here all the fucking time because of my Iron Man runs, but that doesn't make me biased. No, sir. it's just like, it's just pain. I just don't like experimentation that much. It's just kind of boring with not much reward, and it's like, well, I guess that's to be expected. Yippee! And then you move on to the next moon. Because it's not even like if there's weather, it becomes like fun. It's just, it's miserable with no good loot. Like, ah yes, I cannot wait to play Flooded Experimentation. I can't wait for the oh wait, the entire map is already unplayable by like 1 p.m. To be fair, you have the pipe that you can just run on to get equipment back, and then you have that little hill next to the ship, so you still technically can get things back, but it sucks. You literally have to jump onto the telephone pole, and you have to know you actually can get on that pipe, you know? Which, of course, I'm sure everyone here watching already knows about it, but it's like if you're playing for the first time, you might not think to, you know, go and do that. I don't know. I guess I just don't really like it that much. There isn't really much more to mention about it, though. So yeah, I guess with that out of the way, the Middington Moon, we now have March, another Middington Moon. So, March before the rework was fairly mid. It was, you could have the chance for something good. However, you would also have a very good chance for terrible, terrible dog shit, and that's just because of how the interior spawned for March. So, the main gimmick with March is supposed to be that it's a fairly big facility on the inside, but you have 3 fire exits to actually explore a lot more of the facility, like, spread out, as opposed to just, you know, having, like, only 1-2 areas to search from. And, like, that's cool and all, but the main issue in practice is that it never fucking works, because all the fire exits tend to spawn, like, super close to each other, or at least that close enough to each other that it completely invalidates the whole point. So running away to like any of the fire exits can sometimes be a fool's errand, and it's just better to go to main since you'll see them right next to it anyways. I mean, as far as I understand, there is actually code that's supposed to make it so the fire exits spawn away from each other, but it just doesn't work. So, you know, I guess that there is that, but if it worked, it would be a lot better for this moon, because the moon's scrap is like, it's mid. It's nothing too crazy, and it's honestly so low with the amount it spawns that it just sucks. Like, it did get buffed this, like, so, like, with the, like, rework outside, it got a little nerfed, I would definitely say. I mean, you can definitely still get things back, but it's kind of rough, especially if you have, like, the Feopars and everything, because there's not nearly as much, like, cover, I would say, as there used to be. Or at least it's a lot more difficult to find good areas to like get yourself behind walls, you know, or behind trees. So it's a little bit more rough, and you don't really get too much of more of a reward, because it's like you have the shorter or smaller facility on the inside, but it doesn't really matter if you're not going to be finding much anyways, you know? Like, you're probably going to get 14, 15 items on this moon, and it's just like, that's fucking horrible. The thing is, the scrap is supposed to be balanced around the fact that you can, like, go to the different exits and they'll all be, like, you know, I don't know, I guess equidistant from each other, so you can actually explore new, like, sections and get more loot, but it just doesn't work like that usually. And then, like, the gimmick as well is that, like, on the outside you have a shit ton of bees, so you can, it's basically like a really luck-based moon, where it's like you can get some insane spawns, like insane both inside and outside, and or you could just get totally dog shit and nothing burger day. And the gap between those is so wide, it's like it's a fucking valley, it's a canyon, like it's so gigantic that it's just like, it kind of isn't fun. It is definitely, like, a lot better, I guess, in terms of, like, map design. I definitely like it a lot more on the outside, but at the same time, I did kind of like the old March design as well. I did enjoy, like, finding strategies on that, but alas, what can you really do? I do enjoy the map design a lot. I just really wish that it was, like, more lucrative, man, because it's, like, it's just usually not good to go to March, like, almost every time. Like, it's just kind of like, why would you willingly go to March when you could go to most other moons that would provide more value, you know? Like, Zeekerss just needs to buff it, like, a little bit, or at least make it so that the fire exits work properly, and March will honestly be good to go, and I feel like it's in, like, a decent, like, spot for a tier 2. Because once those fire exits work, and once we maybe have like a little bit more scrap in there, then we're chilling, and I feel like you can actually get decent days. But the outdoors will still suck, but I guess, you know, it's trying to encourage more equipment use for stun grenades or something, but I mean, you can get around without it, so it's like fine. I don't know. I think the water outside, as it's placed, is fairly interesting, but the bees spawning in water and not being accessible or like roaming instantly is very bad, and I feel like that shouldn't ever happen. Like, it's funny that they spawn in the water, sure, but like, why are the electric bees going into the water to build their hive? Like, are we gonna think about that one? But yeah, I guess that's all there really is to yap about March. I did enjoy, like, whatchamacallit, like, brainstorming up that, like, route, the cruiser route for March. Like, trying to find new, like, routes for it was fun, but yeah, I just wish it was more lucrative. That's kind of all I really have to say. Well, on to Offense at this point, which is a lot better than it used to be, which is shocking to say considering how rough this map used to be. The main issue before with Offense was just it didn't give you much loot, and it wasn't very high value loot, and then you also had the worst enemy spawn curves with terrible enemies as well, so it was just wombo combo of pain, agony, and misery. But Zeekers did fix that to a degree. I'm pretty sure the trap counts got changed a little, so it's a little bit more forgiving. The spawn curve is a lot more forgiving, so it's around noon or 1 p.m. that you're starting to get your first enemy or two inside. And, you know, with the increased mineshaft chance as well that he gave to Offense, it's like, on average, you're getting more loot than you would normally. I think he increased the scrap count, but I don't think he did. I'm pretty sure it was just the mineshaft chance. But that alone honestly makes it so that this moon is more lucrative. And I guess I kind of forgot to mention it earlier, but the mineshaft changes that were introduced in v81 makes it a lot better to play them, I can't lie, considering how, I mean, obviously you do have a decent amount of times where it goes very deep into the caves, but you have more spread out caves that you can get loot at, which makes it a bit easier to play. So you don't have to fully commit into a cave, but yeah, it definitely makes it better. I think Offense is still a little rough to play to some degree, especially if you're on an Eclipse, but for the most part, it's a lot better. It's a lot more lucrative, which is insane to say. So I can't believe Zeekers has done this. And the main reason it's so good now as well is especially in comparison to the other tier 2s and every other thing, it's just so fucking dog shit that it just looks like an absolute beacon of ray, sunshine, and hope. Like, you cannot seriously tell me Cadavermance and Find Nothing March is actually a good state for them to be in right now. Like, it's so bad. Which is the main reason why Offense is so good. It's because the other two that should be decent are fucking horrible. Which I guess I'll stop harping on that point for long enough now. And the reason that, like, a lot of the tier 2s seem even more mid than they would otherwise is because Assurance is so heavily inflated, like, just insane. Because it's so easy to play that map and get a lot out in comparison to the other moons, which they're more complicated, or at least not, I mean, I guess more complicated, but they're more difficult, and that's supposed to be higher value, higher reward, but it's hard to get a good balance, I would say. I think Zeekers just needs to hit like Assurance and Vow with a bit harder of a like metal bat, and then we're getting close to a point where the tier 2s would be feeling more lucrative once they're like actually balanced properly. Because once March has the fire exit change, and then Adamance has, you know, Cadavermance no longer being a thing, plus I don't know, maybe a bit relaxation and other things, it's gonna be a lot better. Because, like, that's all you really need to do. Just make them a little bit better, and then make Assurance worse, and maybe Vow a little worse, and then it's honestly perfect for, like, the balancing. At least, I would say so. Not much more to mention with Offense, I guess. It is definitely fun to play the outdoors to some degree. If, like, you're using the cruiser, that is, you can run over things, but not having any mobility items except for an extension ladder. I mean, extension ladder does make it playable, but it's fairly rough playing Offense on the outdoors unless you do the fire exit jump, I can't lie. And not only that, but if you're playing solo, then you shouldn't be full committing to fire anyway, so you still do have to deal with the outdoor enemies if you're going to be running around. So it's like, All in all, it's a lot better of a moon, it's more lucrative, and it's more peaceful, but I do certainly wish it was, like, not the meta moon now. Because it's still really rough on the eclipse waves, so I guess there is that to keep in mind. I mean, I kind of almost want to put it in B tier, but considering how good it is and like how much easier it is almost to play, it's like I almost want to keep it in A tier. I think I'll put it in B tier for now. Maybe I like change my mind on that and then we'll put it back up to A tier, but I just feel like with Offense, it's like it's good, but it's nothing like, I mean, it's good and it can be very good, but I feel like at the same time it can also just be better to play other moons. I mean, sure, the bottom lines are more consistently like higher, like 800 or something, but I guess that would make it A tier considering how high value you can get, but man, is it like, do I not want to put it that high? It's just mainly because I play Eclipse with it so often that I'm just like in hell with dealing with the enemy spawns, but it's normally not that bad. Well, I guess that's enough to yap about for Offense, really. I mean, not much more to say for that one. And now we have Rend. Honestly, I really like Rend. I really like the state it's currently in, but I don't think it's an S tier moon just because it's like, it can be really lucrative, but you can also get some mid-days and things can go kind of poorly, and it's just, Because it's a good day, but it's not so good, I would say, that it's, like, mandatory almost if you're trying to do some, like, high quota run, or, like, if you're trying to get, like, a bunch of value. It is, like, you can get a lot of value out of it, but, I don't know, I feel like it's just the easiest of the tier 3s, and it's also, like, the least lucrative out of all of them. You can still get a lot of money, but alas. I guess the nice thing to mention that now that we have like the giant fix, it's actually a lot more playable to do this map, because before, if you got spotted once by giants, the stealth meter would fuck you, but now it doesn't really do that. You can actually get around them. That is, of course, assuming you know where the giant is and you know how to actually get behind cover, but if you don't, hopefully you have a stun grenade. I suppose that's really all there is to mention with Rend. I don't really have too much to say. It's honestly just, it's a fun map, it's got good loot, and that's really about it. I feel like Rend's just kind of in a good spot right now, but I guess we'll see how that changes in time. And then we have Titan, which is an incredibly lucrative moon, or it could be fairly mid. And that just kind of depends on how your luck goes for that day, but you can actually get like a good amount out to some degree, because you're usually getting a decent amount of items. If you get unlucky with the brick rooms, it can be a little rough, but from what I've seen with this update, while you do have items spawn in the dead ends for brick rooms now, it did seem like on the higher tier moons you don't nearly get as many dead ends with that, but that could just be copium. One way or another though, I still think it's a really good moon. Of course, if you're playing multiplayer, you probably would want to do something else, but I'm gonna put this in S tier still. I still think it's good enough to be S tier. I still think you can get enough value out of it, because you can definitely get some pretty cracked days. I guess you could say the same for Rend, but I mean, the more I think about it, the more it should be A tier, but honestly, I feel like, especially considering my last tier list video for the moons, I don't want to take it out of S tier. I really want to just keep it there, because I still stand by the fact that if you're playing solo, you can play Titan and it can be really good. And I mean, to multiplayer, it can also be like decently good, but usually you're gonna have the money to go to Artifice if you're playing multiplayer, or like Dine, and it's just better to do that. But I feel like Titan is fun, it's lucrative, and it's just kind of all around decent good, you know? Because like with Rend, you can get high value out, but I feel like you can get more high value out more consistently with Titan, at least if you don't get the most dog shit spawns known to man. There's a decent chance that's copium, but I'm gonna keep it there. It's gonna stay in S tier. And then last but not least here on this list, we have Vow, which is honestly in a good spot, but not crazy. Because I would say it's a B tier moon, because it's like, it takes forever to get things transferred outside, so you're usually just getting what you can by like 1 to 3 p.m. and then you're just trying to haul ass as fast as possible beyond that point. Because like the giants will delay you, but Feopars especially can be rough. I feel like I've gotten to a point where like I don't need the shovel and I can play around them, and honestly, if you can just try to cope, don't use the shovel, and play around them, don't use the shovel. You see, there is this copium where it's like, well actually, you really need to keep the shovel on you 24/7 and keep 14 pounds of weight and an entire inventory slot completely taken up. This is actually good, you see. No! This was the same copium for the stun grenade that made me not ever use it because it just took up an item slot for no reason, and that was 5 pounds. You should, like, not ever be doing that, because it's just, like, why are you making your transfers worse? I get that, like, the Feopars are, like, scary and shit, but just, like, no, man. It is not the big play. This is not the big play to just do that, take the shovel each and every time. Realistically, you should just be doing your best to, like, hear the Feopar and just counter them, I suppose, and try to like angle your body so you can see all of them, but sometimes it might not go well. Maybe you have like the poorest luck known to man, but usually they're fairly predictable if you can keep your back to like one area. Obviously, when you start out, they're miserable, but I mean, if you just slowly play with them more and more, you're eventually gonna, and like you don't use the shovel, you're gonna get to a point where you actually can play around them without the shovel. I don't know. I'm just like, I have so many like canisters of copium by me whenever I just see the, well actually just hold the shovel 24/7. Why didn't you consider that against the Feopars, bro? And it's like, I don't know, man, because I wanted to get more value out of Vow. Like, the whole reason back in the day I even used the belt bag was purely because with Vow I wanted to get my shit out like more consistently, and having the 2 items in my inventory with the flashlight and shovel was like bad. Now of course it's a lot better with the tool belt slot, so like having a like belt bag is even better than before, but it's still just like you're taking up an inventory slot that could be used for scrap, man. Maybe if the situation is horribly fucked, then it's like, okay, I guess I could see it, but 9 times out of 10, just don't use it. Also, this is like an entire side rant about Feopars. Honestly, Vow is good. I feel like it could definitely be changed a little bit, but in how I would change it, I'm not sure. Because, like, you definitely can get some middays out of it already, but I mean, I kind of wish sometimes it was like a little, like, I guess worse to a degree than the tier 2s, but at the same time it's already kind of like that as is. I think the tier 2s maybe just need to be boosted up a little bit more, so that way Vow seems, you know, at least worse enough in comparison, but still like fun considering how it is, you know, the Bracken map. I don't know, I feel like Vow's very fun to play, and yes, even with the cruiser, I feel like there's just a lot you can do here, but it definitely does, like, suck to a degree, but that's just purely because of transfer speeds outside, but there's not much you can really do about that. At least, like, in comparison to other maps as well, these are, like, really atrocious transfers. And I believe that's about it, really. I guess just general thoughts at this point is, I feel like most of the moons in the game are fairly fun to play and honestly decently balanced. As for great balancing, that's definitely up for debate, but it just kind of like, things are so skewed right now because like the tier 1s, they're safe enough but lucrative enough that they're usually better to play than the tier 2s unless you're like actually confident big ball and money. Which some people are, but not everyone. Which is also like a big part of the reason that I'm just kind of like, because we need things in the tier 2s to be more lucrative for them to be like more worth it, which we can especially see with the fence, how it's like the like extra scrap to it with the mine shaft has that bottom line being higher more consistently now, so it's usually better to go there. Although, to be fair, Adamance would be better if it didn't get turned into Cadavermance and the situation with it wasn't unfolding. But yeah, I feel like there definitely needs to be some balancing to the tier 2s especially. Tier 3s are in a pretty good spot, except for Dine. I hate that. Tier 1s, I would say mostly good. Assurance is iffy. And then Embrion is supposed to be a meme moon, and I find it to be fun. Artifice is the lucrative moon. I feel like that's kind of the point of it. And honestly, I just wish we had more interactable stuff outside like we do have on Artifice. I do think some of the changes to like traps and everything are like warranted and nice, but I just think that like overall some things could be done better, but I guess I'm like harping on the same points over and over. At this point though, I wouldn't say any moon is like absolutely terrible. I guess if there's any moon I'm really wanting to say, it would be Adamance, but I think even with the cadavers, it's still playable to some degree, but it's so bad. It's really bad. Like, if cadavers weren't such a nuisance, it would, like, be fine if they were guaranteed there. Because, like, gunkfish are practically guaranteed on March, and you have the Feopars practically guaranteed on Vow. It isn't an issue on those moons because those enemies are, like, counterable. Cadavers in, like, their current form are kind of almost like coil heads, of, like, how they used to be before the stun phase, where just they would infinitely chase you no matter what. I guess the final thing to mention as well is, yes, every single moon, except for Titan of course, you can drive the cruiser on without boosts, and it can be incredibly viable and lucrative. After V70, there was a massive boost or buff to the cruiser. It is basically invincible against enemies. It will never blow up in pretty much every case. And, like, you can still get grabbed at by giants and all that, but you're pretty much not going to get killed by any enemy unless, like, a old bird claw pulls you out, or, like, the giant pulls you out, or you have an earth leviathan. Those are, like, the only scenarios usually. The only way that it would blow up is if it, like, rams into a wall, or you use cruiser boosts and then it blows up by smashing into a wall. Then it's, like, a lot easier to do that, but yeah, use the cruiser. I assure you, it is goated. Alright, well, I suppose that's really all there is to mention in terms of the tier list. I feel like Titan is probably the one that I would say is the most should be an A tier, but this thing's always going to have a special place in my heart, so it is always going to be the S tier, I cannot lie, unless something horrible happens to it. Well, I suppose that's it. Either way, thank you all so much for watching this one. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any disagreements, I suppose leave them in the comments. And until next time, hope you all have a great one.
God!